Hey friends, today I wanted to share a story of how I became a movie star in Taiwan. And by movie star, I don't mean like a famous movie star, just that I've been the main villain of an entire movie and I had like a lot of airtime. So for me, that's a huge win. And I wanted to share this story because I feel like a lot of people don't have an insight into what it's like in the film industry, especially in Taiwan and traditional media. Like a lot of people are getting to know what it's like to be a YouTuber. They create their own content. They maybe watch YouTubers talk about it, but a lot of times we don't know what it's like to be an actor or what goes on behind the scenes. So I'd like to share my story of how I went from like zero acting experience to booking my first role to eventually booking this huge role in a full-on Asian Harry Potter style movie where there's magic, I'm floating in the air, I'm flying, and it's just really fun. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Curtis. I'm an American. I was born and raised in California. And I was there until probably age 22. That's when I decided, I wanted to have a change. I was always in the same place. So I decided, hey, I want to move to Taiwan. And this is after I visited a couple times. I have some family there. So I knew it would be an easy transition to Asia. I just wanted to change. It didn't really matter where. But Taiwan seemed like the spot because at that time there were a lot of ABCs, which are American born Chinese, going to Taiwan and becoming famous. There was like Wang Li Home. I don't know if you heard of him. He's a famous singer. There was the LA Boys, yeah, Los Angeles Boys. They were really famous as well as also F4. They did like Meteor Garden. I don't know if you guys have heard of that drama before, but there's also variations of that. Boys Over Flowers in Korea. Maybe you've seen that. But basically, there's a lot of Americans born Chinese going to Taiwan and becoming famous. And I was like, okay, maybe I can have a shot there because I've always wanted to see what it's like to play in movies, have my own role, maybe be famous, and also live in Taiwan to get to know the roots of my culture because my parents are Taiwanese. And so after I graduated, I made the move with only maybe like a couple acting classes and nothing else. So I went to Taiwan, no connections, no friends. It was so lonely to be honest, because you're just there and I'm looking out to try to book a job. Like I'm like, okay, when I'm gonna get my next big gig, right? There's one huge problem. I couldn't read Chinese. I could speak Chinese with an American accent, but I couldn't read anything. All I could, yeah, I barely could read my own name and maybe like the character one because it's just basically a line, nothing else really. And so I got to Taiwan and I decided, okay, I need to find an agency, someone who can book me jobs, right? Or at least get me to castings. And I started looking up all these like acting agencies and they seem like impossible to get in because you need all these credentials and you need to be from some acting school or some background. And I was like, okay, maybe I can get into modeling first because that seems, there's not as much requirements. And so I found some modeling agencies and they asked me like what is my prior experience. So I didn't have any really, but I made a resume. I took it as an interview for a business. I wrote my name, where I graduated, my working experience. I had worked at a juice shop before. It's called Jamba Juice, and basically I was making smoothies. Pour the fruits in, pour the water, pour the juice, shake it up. Here's your drink, sir. And that was part of my experience as well as being a secretary. And so nothing to do with acting. And I get there. This is my resume. I'd like to be an actor or slash model. And they're like, okay, show me what you got. Act something out. I'm like, holy moly. This is it. I can't turn back though because I've already flown thousands of miles to Taiwan. I just gotta wing it, right? So I was like pretending I'm looking in the mirror, acting like checking myself out before a date. And then like I tried to be as like over dramatic as I could because I just wanted to show, I have the courage to act. Maybe I'm not a good actor, but just train me, just give me a shot. And I like got on my knees. I was like, will you marry me? And then they were just bursting laughing. I don't know if because my acting was so terrible or they just didn't expect someone to be so dramatic or have the audacity to do something like that. And then they actually wanted me. They put me through one of their competitions, and I was like making through like the top 100, and then they offered me a contract. And I saw the contract. I almost signed it right away, but asking like friends, like family friends, and they told me I should definitely check with a lawyer to check if the contract is okay because it was for 7 or 8 years. I think it was for 8 years, which is ridiculously long. I'm 22. 8 years, that would be like right. I would just be getting out of my contract right now. So those contracts back in the day were ridiculous because it's different than now. A lot of people get famous really fast. Back then, basically, if you wanted a shot to be in front of people, even if like you guys watching my videos right now, that would have been like very rare. For people to have an opportunity, you would have to be on a television show or a movie or something of the sort. And so people would always have these long contracts in case you got lucky and you got famous. They wanted to make money off of you. So the contracts were really long. Basically, I took the contract to the lawyer, said, "This is terrible contract. You have no guarantees. They don't have to give you any jobs. And even if you didn't work for 5 years, you still wouldn't be able to get out of the contract. And if you wanted to get out, you would have to pay this heavy, heavy fine." And so that's when I learned, okay, this industry isn't as lighthearted as you would think because there's a bunch of people being just frozen there with their contracts. And I was almost one of them. And I decided to not sign with that company. And eventually, I found a movie company that didn't have any actors, they didn't have any talent, but they were investing in movies. So, to kind of show me that they were serious about it, they put me as an extra in one of their movies. It's called 犀利人妻, The Fierce Wife. It was actually a really big TV show at first in Taiwan, and then they made it into a movie. And so there I was, my first acting role in a movie. It wasn't even a TV show first. It was like a huge jump. And I get in there, and they call me Mr. Fu. I didn't even have an acting name. It was just Mr. Fu. And then I'm there, and then I didn't know what I was doing at all. There's like basically no lines. All they wanted me to do was like have one of the side actresses come over, and then she's supposed to buy a car, but she's actually just hiding from her husband. So I'm just an extra there to kind of keep her busy, right? And that was a flop. But I'm in the movie, so you guys can check that out. And then so I decided to sign with them because they seemed like they were reliable. I could trust them, right? But after signing with them, I later learned that they are investing in movies, but since they don't have a actual agency, they don't know how to push the actors. So as an actor, one of the main problems is to get the opportunity to even audition. Because you see a lot of these movies, just like how it was so easy for them to put me in as an extra, a lot of these movies are controlled by the people that invest in the movies. They can choose, okay, I want this actor, that actress, and that one to play as the main. And then maybe for the side actors, they can find people that have a connection with them. So, okay, I want to use your studio for the next time. So can you give me an actor from your studio, and then next time you put one of my actors in your shows, and then they kind of trade off. So basically, the only opportunities you really have are the leftover characters that are not predetermined. There's no connections going on. And then I couldn't get any jobs for the longest time. Probably just waiting for a couple months. The couple months I was also in Chinese school. I went to Shida, which is a language school in Taiwan, pretty famous actually, and then they helped out a lot. And I was just waiting. Eventually, I had this one breakthrough. I think it was maybe 1 year after I had worked on my Chinese and everything. My first breakthrough, I got this role in a TV show. It was called 向前走,向爱走. It basically follow the money or follow love. And I was in there as a villain, as usual, or kind of like a bad guy, because, like I said, all the good roles are already booked. And so I'm in this role. I'm in the car with the main actress. I'm supposed to be this bad guy that's very, very cocky and annoying and hitting on the main actress, and she just doesn't like me, but I'm super rich, so I feel like I have some sort of authority to, hit on her. I think we have some family connections as well. So just imagine I'm in the driver's seat of the car, and the main actress is sitting right next to me. You think in TV shows it's very easy, right? Just you two and then you do the acting. But no, outside of the car, there's actually the cameraman right here facing up close. There's also the lighting over there. There's also the person with the sound right there. There's also the makeup artist on standby. There's also the people with the props. And then there's all these people around you, like probably 15 people. And then I'm in the car, basically very new, my first time in this TV show. And the main actress is there. I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, this is my breakthrough, right? I have to do this well. Doesn't matter, just give it my all. And then the director goes, 5, 4, 3, 2. And I'm just waiting. And I just see all these people looking at me. 15 people, at least. Main actress looks like, she's in her act or she's just waiting. I'm not sure. And I'm like pretending I'm in the act, but I'm really actually just waiting. After 2 should come 1 in action, right? No. For some reason, the TV shows in Taiwan stop at 2. And then you're supposed to begin. All I heard after like 10 seconds was, how the heck, like basically the cuss, like how the fuck long are you gonna take? And they got pissed. I was like, what is going on? Because I didn't know. How was I supposed to know there's no action? I mean, I should have done my homework, but there's no homework to do because there's no place that you can really learn this stuff other than on set. So I was even more nervous after that. And then so basically after the whole day of filming, it was terrible. I went home. I was so excited that I finally did my first TV show, even though it was terrible. I think 3 days after, I get this call. 傅冠杰, my Chinese name, like Curtis. I'm sorry to tell you, we've decided to cancel your part and find another actor. Oh my god. My heart sank. It's been like a year and I thought I'd finally get a breakthrough. But no, they just dropped my part like that. I'm sure it was my fault because I just was terrible at acting. But to be rejected like that after trying so hard, it was just terrible. And that's just how ruthless the acting industry is, because the story has to go on. People invest in the movie or the TV show, and the story, they need good actors and actresses. So if you're not up to par, then you're canceled. And also, if you don't have the connections, you don't even have the chance to cast for any of the good parts. And so that was that. I didn't give up though. I did a lot of talking with my company, and they decided, I need to work on my Chinese, because they told me to act in English, and my English was a lot better than my Chinese. So it was actually a language barrier, because when you speak a different language, you only kind of remember it as vocabulary. So basically, I would have no different tonalities in my speaking. no matter how hard I tried, no matter how good my expressions were, my language for Chinese was basically monotone. Even now, when I watch my Chinese videos, like on YouTube, it's still now not as dynamic as my English, just because it's not that fluid of a language to me. It's a second alien language. And so I spent a lot of time just working on Chinese. I remember going to my boss's office for 8 to 10 hours straight every day. I would just sit there, and he gave me this book called《神雕侠侣》by Jing Yong. Basically, it's a Chinese novel written by this artist, this writer called Jing Yong, and it's very traditional literature. So there's a lot of deep words, a lot of profound meanings. Basically, I would sit there, and then I would have my iPad on the side. I'm going to write down each word and then translate it. So at the same time, I'm learning how to read and also learning the real meaning of each word. And they're very deep. So the more understanding I have, the better I can utilize the Chinese language. And just remember, 8 to 10 hours there every single day. It would take me at least an hour to read one page because of all the writing. And my finger would blister because I was using the same finger over and over so much that I had to like switch fingers. It was just this long process, and they also had me go to more acting class. And the acting styles in Taiwan are more theatrical, but I eventually was able to get the hang of it. And then I had booked some commercial roles in between. So commercial roles are not as easy as you think. In my mind, I was like, okay, commercial, you just kind of like, wow, this tastes so good, so amazing, right? But there's so much to it because there's the close-up, there's your reaction, when is it, there's making it look real. It's like you can't have the drink and then be like, wow, it's so good before you even drink it, or drink it and then the tempo of when you actually are supposed to experience how good it is. It's supposed to be right on beat, as well as your expression should be real, and then it's supposed to be fast-paced, you're supposed to be entertaining. There's all that stuff that goes into it, but it's very helpful for acting in movies and dramas. So with a lot of practice, I think after 3 or 4 years maybe, I was doing a lot of improvement. One day, my boss was talking to another movie, and they're just basically looking for investors. Yeah, they're looking for investors. And then they saw me and they were like, wow, you look perfect for our villain role. However, we already have it booked, so you don't have a chance to even be in it. However, they were like, you can do a casting, so in the future, if we see a suitable role for you, perhaps we will get in contact with you. So they had given me the acting script for the villain. I had to practice. It was still really hard to read Chinese like fluently and like have it function right away, but I just knew I had to work really hard. So I was like, give me 2 days or 3 days. And after those 3 days, after just reviewing, recording, I went back and I did the casting. And then they really enjoyed it. They were like, we really like you, but we don't have the part for you. And so that was it, right? So I was like, okay, forget it. And during this time, I had tried to book other roles in between. And this other role that I did book was a gangster in a TV show called 廉政英雄. Like I said, all the major roles are predetermined. Even getting that role was very lucky. We had to get it through some sort of connection inside. Basically, my agent at the time was begging the people inside to at least let me audition for the role. And they really was lacking the person for the bad guy, which is why they were casting in the first place. And so I was luckily let in, and I was supposed to be just like a henchman of a gangster. I'm sorry my story is all over the place, but I wanted to just share freestyle. So I booked it as a henchman in that TV show. And surprisingly, after like the first few appearances, they told me for all their TV shows, the audience actually determines who's on the show. So it's not like Hollywood or a lot of TV shows where you think everything is written out. In Taiwan, a lot of times they write their script for next week or for their next episode or maybe even for tomorrow. And then the actor gets to the next day or next week. So everything is like written depending on the viewership. So whoever the audience likes, that's who the writers actually write in more. So that's like another industry secret that I had no idea before. And so when I showed up on the TV as the henchman, and I was like very stiff and stuff, very cool, like, yes, sir, I'll get that for you, sir. Surprisingly, the audience, thank God, thank whatever to them, they stayed in tune whenever I was up. So the writers decided to write me in more and gave me more lines. And then the boss at the time was super nice to me. He gave me all these tips. He told me, okay, when I'm acting, I should do this. And then he's like, later when you come in, say this. Because the script, it may just have one word, like okay. But you can actually add a few words before or after to make the tonality better or just to give yourself a little extra scene. And so I'm learning all these different tricks and I'm getting more and more airtime. And eventually that boss had to go and play other roles for other movies because he's so famous, right? And they decided, so luckily, to make me into the boss. Like I went from a henchman upgrade to the boss. And so I started getting more and more airtime, and it was mainly because the audience was accepting of me. And so luck plays a huge factor as well. And at that time, my Chinese was still so terrible. I couldn't read all the words. So I had to bring somebody with me to read out the script, and I had a recorder. I would record their voice and I would listen to it over and over again and then repeat it until I remembered it. Because I couldn't have the person keep reading it out loud and then for me to repeat that way, it was just too tiresome. So I would have these recordings. And a lot of times they would give us the script on the spot and then we would have to act it out in a few hours. So that's how like on it was like very short time to prepare. And so I was gaining a lot of experience like that. Eventually got to play the boss, which is so ridiculous. And I've never been a bad boy. I've never been like a badass, but you know, just all this practice, it was really fun. I got to shoot guns. I got to like be very angry, pretend to beat up people, get into fights, get beat up myself, have all these bandages around, spit out blood, get in the hospital. It was like so fun because there's so much stuff involved. I was like gangster in a suit, and the next thing I'm like running after someone, chasing them down, telling them don't sell drugs in my place, pushing them down in like toilets and stuff. I had a blast. And then my big break came. It was, I think, after half a year. So that movie that I told you about where they were looking for, or they just gave me an opportunity to cast in case in the future. What happened was, so that movie is an Asian Harry Potter. It's the first Taiwanese Asian Harry Potter style of movie. It was the TV show that it was based on is made for kids. It's called 蒙学园. It's a very popular TV show for kids, like very young, maybe 10 and under. They decided to make a movie of this. And the movie, they wanted to target like a larger audience. So for the movie, they had a lot of the same cast, but for the villain, they could bring in someone new. And so they had shot the movie. However, it wasn't fully released yet. And something happened. It was by a stroke of something, like, I can't really explain it. So something happened to the main villain, and just I'm not sure if I'm allowed to disclose, but basically he did something that was very bad, and the film and everybody decided, when investors and everything decided, we cannot have that actor in the movie. And so they already finished shooting, but they needed to reshoot all the parts with the villain. And then they decided to reach out to me. So this role pretty much came out of nowhere because it was already pre-filmed and anything. And that is how I got the role, which is so ridiculous. By the stroke of luck that they decided to have me do a casting so they could use me in future, and they liked me. And by a stroke of, I don't even know if it's bad luck or good luck, that the actor did something unfortunate and I got the role. But the bad part was when I got there, no one was welcoming because everybody was so angry that they had to refilm. So that meant all those long hours of setting up, those long nights, they had to redo everything. And all the actors and directors and everybody were already really accustomed to everybody. So I'm the outsider. So no one really liked me. So it was a lot of pressure. My first time in this big movie, I'm the main villain. Basically, imagine Power Rangers and there's a main villain. I'm that main villain. Imagine Harry Potter, there's Voldemort. I'm the Voldemort. So it's a huge role and everybody hates me. Or so I feel like. And there I am, reciting my lines, doing my own thing, no one on my side. But I did it anyway. And I have to say, while it was very tough, it was so worth it. They had me on this harness underneath my outfit, and they pulled me up with magic. Whenever I did a magic attack, I can fly. They would pull me, and then they would shoot me on the side when I got attacked, and I would pretend to cast out all these magic incantations, and I could choke people with just my hands. They would be floating up and swing them around because I'm the almighty badass Voldemort style, right? So I could do anything, while all the good guys are like doing all these like long incantations. I can actually do magic without anything. And what I loved about that role as well is they even had a part for me where it was before I turned into a bad guy. So I got to play a good guy as well. So I had a lot of acting time in that movie, which I'm so fortunate for and I'm so grateful for. And that movie, to be honest, it was a flop. It didn't sell well at all. But I'm still so proud that I got to accomplish that dream of being a movie star, being a big role in a huge movie. That was a high budget movie for Taiwan. And that was it. I accomplished that. And I realized, okay, I think acting isn't really what I want to do. I didn't enjoy the acting part as much as I thought. I enjoyed all the new experiences. I enjoyed floating up. I enjoyed the whole production, the magic, all the stuff that happens, but not necessarily the acting. It didn't have to be. And eventually that's why I transitioned into content creation, like videos and making my own skits, making music videos, making vlogs, all of that. But that's for another day. So for the acting part, overall, I just wanted to give you guys some insight into what it's really like behind the scenes. So a lot of actors are really starving artists because you don't know when you'll get your next gig. So let's say I go to a bunch of castings. You cannot overlap the times. So let's say I go to this one acting casting. They say filming is going to be from September to December. So in that time, you cannot go to a different casting that would have a filming time between September and December. And so you're basically waiting for an answer while keeping this time frame open. And then you could hear back after 2 weeks or a month and tell you, I'm sorry, you didn't get the job. And then your September to December is completely open. So how are you supposed to have a sustainable living like that, right? So I think a lot of times actors will have a side job or have to do something else in between. Otherwise, it's just ridiculous. it's hard to survive. Luckily, I didn't have to pay any rent when I was eating at home. I just didn't buy anything. I had some savings from the US, but basically, being an actor is there's so much stuff involved, which is why I'm so grateful for the internet nowadays. You can make your own films. I can take this camera up and we can shoot our own film. I can shoot me acting a skit out. I can shoot different angles. I can get the same lighting. I have microphones. I can do whatever, all of that, post it online. People can see it. And if that does well, eventually make bigger films. And if you get famous, then hopefully you can easily, or like more easily, get a role in a different acting gig. So it's completely different now than it was before. I can't even imagine how it is now, especially because a lot of times people watch more stuff on the internet than they do television. So it's such a huge transition. That's the story of how I became a movie star in Taiwan. I hope you enjoyed it. Wow, this is very, very long. If you stayed until the end, I love you so much. Please leave a comment like, you are the best villain or something. I don't know. Just let me know that you actually watched until the end, because that is ridiculous. This is half an hour, but I'm gonna upload it anyway. This channel is where, I can just share whatever that is on my mind. I wanted to keep this channel like this, free and easy, casual. You guys can feel free to leave me on in the background. You can just do your homework, you can cook, you can do whatever. I'll just keep you company talking, right? That's kind of how I would like this to go. Okay, that's it. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Drop a like if you're all the way here. And leave a comment down below about anything. I'll see you guys in the next one. You are so amazing. Love you all.